been a while since I've traveled for photography. Most of my shoots are either local or at worst within an inconvenient drive of my house. A multi-day endeavor several states away just hasn't really been a thing for me lately. But I've been finding myself in need of some new inspiration. When I first got into photography, I was just taking pictures of my friends skateboarding and riding bikes. Yeah, I was always trying to get shots of the next biggest trick, but my body of work also contained all those smaller in-between moments. And over the years, I slowly transitioned from just being this dumb kid with a camera to a photographer who was documenting a local subculture in detail and something a little more universal in spirit. Throughout that time, what really motivated me wasn't so much the content of my images, but what they conveyed. It was always inspiring to see just how much could be communicated by a simple frame. And when I started with airsoft and paintball photography, I had similar ambitions, but because I was working as an event photographer, that work necessitated broader, less artistically driven scenes. Don't get me wrong, I've made some incredible photos over the years doing this, and I'm genuinely proud of them. But the work itself was usually built around getting as many usable pictures of individuals as possible. The participants at these events wanted proof that they were there. A photo of themselves, their teams, their gear, their friends, just something to post or remember the weekend by. So over time, the work kind of became formulaic. I had the angles and the timing down to a science. I knew the kinds of pictures people wanted from me. And eventually, even when the photos were good, it started to feel like I was taking the same picture again and again and again. So at the end of last year, when I was given the opportunity to travel to North Carolina for an event, I was burned out, sure, but I was also motivated. I'd wanted to create a more comprehensive piece for a long time, and this seemed like a great chance to make something that was more than just another gallery or recap or batch of usable images. It also felt like a great chance to reconnect with photography in a way that I hadn't in a while. I would still be covering the event, but I would be doing it on my terms. So I went. But before anything could happen at the event, we had to actually get there. Packing, meeting up with travel companions, waiting around, and packing way too much gear into way too little space. The usual beginning to a trip where everyone's excited, tired, and only partially organized. Then it was just the road.
Oh, I gotta do your job. I don't know. I'm fucking terrible.
A few podcasts. One mildly concerning camper incident outside Harrisburg. Some questionable dietary choices. And 12 hours of watching the landscape change out the window. By the time we pulled into the field that night, there wasn't really much left to do except get settled, get some sleep, and wait for the weekend to start. I kept occupied, though.
Sir? Sir? Do you need me to open yours, or you got it?
Come on, I'm no amateur.
Salute. Come on, I'm no amateur.
We actually had a couple days before the event started, so there was a fair amount of downtime. I mostly filled it by cooking breakfast, making coffee, getting some work done, making second breakfast, making more coffee, prepping my gear, and otherwise just relaxing. People were still arriving and setting up, so there wasn't a whole lot to cover yet. Mostly we were just hanging around camp, killing time, and waiting for the event to actually start. Eventually, though, the place started giving me things to work with. The night before the event really kicked off, I was walking around camp while the sun was dropping, and I took this photo of my friend sitting in the evening light. It wasn't some big action moment. It wasn't even anything you'd expect to see come out of a paintball event. It was just a quiet photo from camp. But it was the first image from the trip that felt like it had the right tone, between the light, the atmosphere, and the sense of waiting for something to happen. And the next day, something finally did.
Apologize for any potential hearing damage. On that man there, and it's literally thrown over 250 because that's how it will go.
When things got moving, I went right back into covering them like any other event. That was just muscle memory. Get close, get low, move with the players, take cover when necessary, which at this event was actually pretty often.
God, I've changed it. It used to be worse. Oh, good. So glad you fixed that issue.
That first stretch was really just me getting my bearings. I was back in the rhythm of covering an event, but this field had its own rhythm. The terrain was different from what I was used to. There were long sight lines through the trees, blind rises, and places where it wasn't immediately obvious that you were walking into danger. So for a while I was mostly just learning how to move through it.
I ran for a fucking reason. I knew where the bitch was at.
And once I started getting a feel for the place, I started noticing how different it looked from what I was used to shooting back home. Not in some dramatic way, it was still woods, mud, players, and cover. But the color of the ground was different. The light felt different. The smoke moved through the field differently. And between the people, the vehicles, the movement, and all that warm dirt, the event started to take on its own look. And as I started making photos, those details started tying everything together. The images weren't completely different from the work I'd made before. I was still shooting the way I shoot, but they started to feel connected. Less like random coverage and more like something that belonged together. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. I'd been out shooting for a while, the event was starting to wind down, and I was heading back toward camp. That's usually how these things go. People get tired and the pace starts dropping off, and eventually everyone starts making their way back. But as I got near camp, I turned around and saw a line of orange smoke filling the field. And then the sunset hit it. The warm light and smoke completely transformed the field, and I knew immediately that I had to go back out there. So I did. The next day was the last real stretch of the event, so hanging around camp for the night felt like the right move before things started up again. The next day felt a little different. The light had really peaked the night before, and I think after that I stopped feeling like I needed to chase the trip quite as hard. I still made a few photos I liked, but I wasn't trying to force something out of every moment. For a while it was enough to just be there, follow the event, and see what else happened. There were still moments here and there, little pieces of the day that caught my attention, but it felt less like I was hunting. And near the end, I got to see the field from a completely different angle.
Why fucking we come out? That
Alright, that's okay, it's cool.
I'm not.
Go. We gotta.
I'm ready to go. Get in here.
I ended up riding in one of the armored vehicles I'd seen rolling around the field that weekend. I didn't really take any photos from inside of it. I mostly just filmed what I could and took in how different the whole thing felt from that perspective. And honestly, that was part of what I needed from this trip too. Not every moment needed to turn into a photograph. Some of it was just about experiencing the event differently. It really was a nice change of pace, and it was fun to see things from the perspective of a player for once.
That was freaking intense.
But you know, you're always still media.
Hey guys, wave to the camera. Everybody say hi.
And that was pretty much it. We climbed out and the event was over. After that, everyone gathered for awards and that was pretty much it. People started packing up. Camps came down, gear disappeared, and the place emptied out as the rain moved in. And then that same evening light came back one more time. It had been there at the beginning when things were still quiet. It was there during some of the strongest moments of the event, and now it was there right as things were ending. I don't think I realized it in the moment, but looking back, that light ended up being one of the things that tied the whole trip together. Looking back through the images, I don't know that they're radically different for the kind of work I've made closer to home. There are still players in the woods, behind cover, or running through a field. But this time, the photos weren't the whole point. They were part of the experience. The quiet photo at camp, the light through the smoke, the action once the event finally kicked off, the ride through the field, the rain moving in at the end. Those moments mattered on their own, but they also started to connect. And once I stopped treating them as separate pieces, just another photo, another clip, another part of the gallery, the whole thing started to feel like something more complete, more like a project. And I think that was the difference. I don't think one trip fixes burnout, and I don't think one project completely changes the way you work. But making this reminded me that the work can be more than coverage, more than a gallery, more than the next set of images to edit, upload, and move on from. It can be something I build, something I shape, something I actually spend time with. After a long time of feeling like I was just getting through the work, that was enough. I went there to photograph an event, and I came home wanting to do more. So I will.